Okay, we should be live. So hopefully you can hear me. I see you right in the chat, CJ. Already got someone to show up. Now, I had a plan for this episode or of the live, and it was going to be the best Rippaverse book. I still want to do that. I have this tier list that Amaze made for me, but Horseman number one, of course, got announced. So of course, I'm going to have to talk about this. So I'm going to wait for people to come in, but see you in the chat, CJ. So hopefully you had a good week and a happy Friday. Always glad that it is Friday and not some other day of the week. Yes, especially Monday. But I'm going to wait for some people to get into the chat here. Put it on solo layout or say do this. So hopefully you guys can hear me. But this is, of course, Horseman number one. It's a 56 pager by Joe Bennett and Chuck Dixon. This is the continuation of the story of Horseman. Of course, Horseman Welcome to Forest Park establishes Horseman as a character in Forest Park. He definitely has a history before. And I see this page right here. We'll open this in the new tab, and then we'll share this tab instead and zoom in a little bit. You definitely see this as a war setting. Of course, he was with the Horsemen. That was the I guess the Four Horsemen, I believe is his name. Oh, Maze is in the chat. We're going to go through the tier list you made for me today, but we're talking about Horseman number one first because that was just announced, and of course, this had one. It's 2,126 books sold so far, $63,000 in total sales. This is, of course, a 56 pager. The Horseman book, Horseman, the original Horseman. I keep saying Hector's name, but Horseman Welcome to Forest Park was a $25 book, 96 pager. This is $15 for the mass print cover, which is this really awesome cover here. I got the link out. Thank you, Student of God, for doing that. Hail to you, Garfield. I know you really like Horseman, so this must be a great day for you. And honestly, I'm a little hecked that we don't have Alpha Core 2 yet, since Alpha Core 2 has probably been my most anticipated Rippaverse book, especially, I mean, after I read Alpha Core number one, even though I really like Yaira, I love Alpha Core, and it's the same team, but I am not at all unhappy that Horseman is out. And this is a really interesting way to get Horseman back in the game by having some like eccentric high-tech guy, kind of like Lester from GTA 5, just get in contact with the Horseman. And we see this like really awesome one-page spread here of Hector striking a pose in front of, I believe his name is, I can see the log line here. It's Cal something. Oh, yeah, Cal Buxton. Let's see. Agreed, mine too. Horseman's my favorite character and book so far. Looking forward to him getting his own series. Yeah, I am too. I think Horseman having an ongoing series is really justified, considering how popular that character has been. I mean, $800,000 on the first collection, and people were really hyped about Horseman. Of course, I love that book. And of course, having Chuck Dixon writing and Joe Bennett doing the pencil work made it an absolute hit. So giving it an ongoing series makes sense. Let's see, it talked about on the Discord a bit, but it's crazy that we haven't gotten Alpha Core 2. Always cool to see Horseman, though. I agree with you, Amaze. Hopefully, Alpha Core 2 is going to be the next book. Because, you know, you got Zalen, you got Horseman, so that's got to be what Joe is working on next. But yeah, Horseman's a really popular character, so I think they wanted to get his ongoing series started after that one shot did so well. Of course, you know, $800,000 and it launching with the trailer, people responding positively to it, and people just really liking the character. I think it made sense to get Horseman number one out, and hopefully we can get Alpha Core 2. When I interviewed Chuck Dixon, that was Braxcast number 50, I believe, and you can go watch that. I recommend you guys do. It was a really, really good interview I did. And of course, you know, it's just good to watch Chuck. He's got his own YouTube channel as well. But anyway, Horseman is going to cross over with Alpha Core a lot. So you like the Alpha Core, and I do as well. We're probably going to see the Alpha Core have a little bit of a role in Horseman number one, and definitely in the ongoing series. So with this being 56 pages, I'm not sure how much is going to go into crossing over with the Alpha Core, but I'm sure the Alpha Core are going to notice that someone's trying to get in contact with the Horseman and try and just pursue that guy on his own. Of course, since they know Hector is probably going to go to him and directly say, don't do this, just lay low. You got to work your job. You got to take care of your sister and your nephew. Let's see. Going back to chat, Alpha Core 2 is probably going to be another 100-page book. Horseman's a 48-page book. Yes, you're talking about like the literal counts. But yeah, I mean, if Alpha Core 2 is like a 96-page or 100-page book, it's going to justify the wait, and it's definitely um, going to give us a lot, especially dealing with the fallout of the first Alpha Core book, because a lot happened and there was a lot that was really consequential. Student of God is saying the trailer's really interesting. Since I got 7 of you guys in, now let's start by watching the Horseman trailer. So we'll share the tab, play right there.
Where did you go? I know you didn't just up and leave. A man like you has too much work to do in Flores Park to just disappear on me now. You want to finish what you started. I don't know what stopped you, but I can help you get back on the proverbial horse. And to ride again. I can give you the means to take your operation to the next level. And wipe the scum of this city off the face of the earth. Permanently. I love what you do. I never want you to stop. I am your biggest fan. Notice me. I'm going to make it impossible for you to ignore. Notice the billboard. Are you the Horseman? Text yes to 88388. It's only a matter of time until curiosity gets the better of you. And we can meet. Imagine what we can accomplish together. Get back to me, horse. I know you need this as badly as I do.
Okay, that is the Horseman #1 trailer, and of course, the rest of it just shows off this little end screen. It's been pretty standard with all the trailers that they've done, and of course, they've done with these trailers. They're using art from the original book, of course. This is the warehouse. This is the warehouse scene from the Horseman Welcome to Flores Park, and then you've got when they're moving to Flores Park. Especially like, and that's towards the end. So it's basically just using the comic book art, editing it, getting a pretty cool voiceover. Student of God said, dude's creepy. Definitely agree with that. But we're going to go share this tab instead. Let's see. New villain seems really interesting, hoping he isn't a one-off. So let's see. This is Cal Buxton, and well, maybe he'll be a bit of a villain character, but I see this as someone he's working with. And this is someone who's also a vigilante, but he's probably in it for less savior reasons or less moral reasons than Horseman is. Of course, we know that Hector has a family, and of course, he has this extreme desire for justice because of his brother's death, or yeah, his brother-in-law's death, I should say. And of course, this is just an extension of his military life. He's good at doing this. And he's a soldier, so he's used to using violence to solve problems and to try and construct things. That's what the military convinces you that warring is, and this is the mindset that he has: is that he's going to go to war with the criminal underclass, especially wronged his family, and he's going to use the resources they were stealing and stealing from people and doing all these shady things and then using it to support his family. Of course, that's definitely has a lot of moral questions, especially for those who think the state is legitimate and there's a process to go through things, especially. But that's a whole other discussion. In this, I guess, in this world, the Rippaverse, we have Horseman as this vigilante, and he's got a lot better reasons for being a vigilante than someone like Cal Buxton, I imagine, would. And I think that's going to be the dynamic where he has his own intentions and he wants to strike at the criminal underclass, but he's not going to be as I would say, I'm not say morally pure, but he has a strong moral compass, Hector. And that's what drives him to do what he's doing, right? He's not just this like insane wackadoo that doesn't care and is just decides to go after criminals because that's the easy target. Like I think Dexter is someone who murders murderers, right? And he's definitely a lot more unhinged. At least that's my understanding. I've never watched the show Dexter, but my point is that there are people who can go after criminals for there all sorts of people can go after criminals, and their reasons for doing so can be more or less morally justified. And I think Cal's is going to be less, and that's going to be the conflict that we fall into. We've got 10 viewers. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this. Of course, I can keep talking about the Horseman, and I think we'll go through the covers of the Horseman. So we'll click on Horseman number one, and then I'm going to go and start the tier list. So we've got cover A. This is, of course, the Kanan White cover. Absolutely beautiful. We'll share this tab instead. So this is Kanan White's cover, colored by Candace. We definitely have some interesting insights on this. We've got like, I don't know, like a really big looking character here, kind of like a Santuan. Of course, we've got the Alpha Core, so they're most likely going to make an appearance. And then, of course, we've got this really epic gun pose of Horseman in his full gear. It gets a new costume. Cover A for me. I think, yeah, cover A is fantastic. And I'm not going to go and say you're incorrect for thinking that cover A is the best cover, because it is absolutely fantastic. And of course, Kanan knocks it out of the park with basically everything he draws, or literally everything he draws. But of course, we're going to the next cover, and this is the cover by Mike Miller, and Diego Albuquerque colored this. So let me get this tab shared here, and we've got the cover B. Of course, this is Mike Miller doing a retro cover. It looks absolutely fantastic. Of course, we got number 1 2025, that same character box that I believe appeared in the cover D drawn by Joe Bennett. That was the retro cover that he did, Joe Bennett being the penciler for Horseman. But this is, of course, Mike Miller's cover, and we've got, let's see, introducing the 4 horsemen: Daltrey, Fat, Prissy, and Cal Buxton, surrounded by enemies but about to meet his biggest fan. And then, of course, you've got this pretty epic arc here of the Horseman. But we're going into Beneath Floors Park. That's Macabre Derek. All hail to you as well. Cover B is really good as well. That's what Garfield is saying. Maze is saying that guy kind of looks like Santuan. I agree with that. But we're going on to the next cover here, and this cover is done by Jack Jadson, who I think did one of the covers for Great War Separation. I can't remember at this moment, but this is the foil and embossed cover. Absolutely fantastic. I love these foiled and embossed covers. And this is a pretty just like epic close up. But of course, you got the reflection of the criminal who's looks like, mugging a woman. And of course, Horseman's coming to save the day by, taking out the trash, right? That is a really good cover by Jack Jadson. We are going to actually, let's see, share my screen, and we're going to share the window of this so that way I don't have to, let's see, click through covers. And of course, this is Admiro Hayas did the coloring and line art. If I can add the stage here. Yes, this is can't pronounce her name, can't pronounce that person's name, but this is a fantastic cover. This is, of course, the mass print cover, $15 for 56 pager. I think it's pretty good. Absolutely love this one. You got him in his full costume. You got like the smoke, standing on top of a building covered in blood, which really shows the very violent nature of the Horseman character. But we've got, all 4 covers are great. I agree with that. Mike has bad knees. Good to see you in the chat. And definitely want to give a shout out to Doug Shea. I don't believe I've seen you in any of the live streams before, so I wanted to shout you out. But we're going to go on to this tier list, and I believe Amaze is in the chat. I saw him. If he's still in the chat, thanks for making this tier list, and of course, sending it to me. So this is, I think, every Rippaverse book that has currently been released, and I've read these all, of course. And this includes the Rippazines. So we'll go by the short story Salvage and Sersha, and then I guess I'm going to go and give my take on them. And we're going to start with the Horseman because, of course, it's the launch day for Horseman #1. So, Horseman, Welcome to Forest Park, of course, being that 96 pager that introduces the character of the Horseman to the readers in Hector Lee Caballero, and then establishing him in Forest Park, which is, of course, what sets up the ongoing series. I definitely am going to place this in A tier. Absolutely fantastic book. I really, really liked it. I love the take that Chuck Dixon has on the vigilante character. And since Chuck and Joe created it, definitely has this like really unique feel to it. And of course, since I'm a newbie to comics, I haven't read like a long box full of Punisher and Daredevil comics. So the trope isn't something that I'm tired out on. But I definitely, definitely like it. We got Comics Mate saying, good day to you. Kevin Hazard says, I'm sure that Alpha Core is checking. Alpha Core, let's see. Yeah, Horseman is S tier for Garfield. I'm not inherently against that. But let's see. We'll go for Blood Roof. Blood Roof is pretty recent. Blood Roof to me, I think, is a little bit above. I'm going to place this in the A tier. Actually, let's see. I'm not sure. Like Blood Roof's such a good book, and it establishes so much. Honestly, I'm going to put Blood Roof in S tier because it has the first interior appearance of Dokuman. You've got just so many interesting themes and motifs. Of course, I've talked about the with Cain and her praying to Mary, and of course just this like mysticism and supernatural aspect, and of course this I guess supernatural and mysticism is probably the best words to use with Blood Roof, and of course just her as a character is really interesting. So there's a lot that's going to go on with Blood Roof, and then having Gooding and Michael Copper, Nili Ranashi be part of that as well. Of course, that references Zephania. I absolutely love that book. A tier. I'm going to put it in S tier. I'm very comfortable putting it in S tier. And another book I'm really comfortable putting into S tier. I'm going to put, I think, Yaira. Let's see. I'm going to put Yaira 1. Actually, I'm going to put Yaira 1 in S tier, Yaira 2 in A tier. Because, like I said, Yaira 2 in my review is just like a little bit too short with the amount of stuff that goes on. Reading like the first 10 issues of Yaira in one sitting won't have this problem, but just 2 on its own, having read 1, it feels a little bit too, I guess, cramped in the pacing. But it still presents everything that's presented really well, and it makes sense. There's just so much going on with Yaira that I really want to read Yaira free. Let's see. Absolutely, Blood Roof is one of the top 3 for me. I agree with you, Doug. Definitely. So I'm putting it a little bit below Yaira #1. I think Yaira #1 is still my favorite Rippaverse book. I love the character of Yaira, and again, there's just a lot of the otherworldly aspect of Yaira and just her as a character. She's just so much, and of course, Deborah Zar is just fantastic. Of course, she has a fantastic subject to draw in Yaira, being like the 6'1", voluptuous, muscular, super powered ice queen that just goes around and just does what she wants as Sally Rodell, and of course, the mythical Yaira. But we've got Great War Separation next. Absolutely love Great War Separation. I'm going to put this above. Yeah, I'm going to put this solidly in A tier. Great War Separation. I'm considering Great War Separation as just like the entire limited series, because we're getting to, we know this is going to be a 4-part series, and I don't see Jack Herbert and Chuck Dixon not finishing up the Great War Separation in a way that's really, really interesting to the reader. Yaira 1 is C tier for me. Yaira 2, however, is B tier. That is blasphemy. I'm going to ban you right away. You're not getting your take. I'm just kidding. I would take your Great War 1 is B tier. I think it's A tier for me because it's just so foundational to the Rippaverse. And of course, I had those issues with not translating the Spanish, but there's just so much lore to this, and it's so well drawn, especially reading the art of Jack Herbert and just getting this like more of this awareness of how much care and attention he put into all the pages that he did. It just really makes me appreciate Great War Separation. I absolutely love the book, and of course, I'm thinking of it as the entire limited series to me, because I think it's just going to remain solid throughout the next 3 issues. I just don't see it not being like that, and of course 2 is on the way. Let's see. So I put Horseman in S tier, Yaira 1 and Blood Roof in A, and Yaira 2 in B. Great War separation in upper B. That's a pretty good take. Mike has bad knees. Let's see. Finally got my copy of Great War Separation as a non-Spanish speaker. Yeah, it hurt my impressions of the book. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's not like awfully bad that it makes it unreadable. It's just that when they inevitably release the omnibus, I hope they put in those translations. That's definitely something, like, if they don't do that, that's going to be something I'd be like, I'd say I wouldn't buy it, and I would demand them to reprint print that. That probably would be the best thing, because it'd be a pretty simple thing for the letterer to do, and would definitely make it more readable to English speakers, which is the intended audience, or at least people who can read English, right? Because that's what all the books have been published in so far. Yeah, Doug agrees with that too. But like I said, I still think Great War Separation is fantastic. But we're going for the last Chuck Dixon book that was written, or a book written by Chuck Dixon for the Rippaverse, and Alpha Core. Alpha Core number one. Of course, Alpha Core number one is going to probably be the top of the A tier for me. I love the Alpha Core. I love Brian. I love Braxwell. I love Ingrid as well. Such a great introduction, and it gives us this indication that there are a lot more accepts than we initially thought, with ISOM 1 and ISOM 2. Those, of course, being the only two books we had at the time Alpha Core was published in the late fall of 2023, a couple months after ISOM 2. Alpha Core is also B tier, but I'm putting it in A tier. I'm standing by what I say. And plus, all those two-page spreads, Garfield, absolutely beautiful. And I feel like that's a disrespect to Joe's artwork, especially at the end with Wilkins like saving Flores Park from preventing the great from Eagle's Nest just decimating or leveling Flores Park. Absolutely amazing two-page spread. Mike has bad knees agrees that Alpha Core is top of the A tier. So and Doug Shea as well. So Garfield's in the minority, but still we love Garfield. Even if we disagree. But this is why I love these tier lists. And I did, of course, 2 tier lists for the characters, for the heroes and the villains, and it's going to be outdated. But I did that when I went to Porkfest, because I was not going to have I wasn't at my setup for those 2 weeks. So I did those 2 episodes to maintain the release schedule. I'm going to do the same thing. But of course, like, I'm moving, and this book Horseman is coming out in June. So so it's going to be a bit, but there's going to be, like I said, a couple weeks where I'm not going to be able to put out the content and the reviews like I know I usually do. So if you guys enjoy this for whatever reason, it's going to be like in summer, I'm going to have these growing pains with like getting a place and then getting all my stuff and then getting stuff shipped to me. So if there's anybody in New England, where I could get stuff, these like my Horseman books shipped to me, you could reach out to me. We could meet up, maybe make that happen. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. I'm sure I'll be able to figure out regardless. But it's just like getting to the place and getting to where I live up there, and then getting all my stuff, and then having a setup to record and then edit everything. That's going to be a bit of a transition. But anyway, I want to get back to actually talking about the Rippaverse. So we're going to read through the chat, go through the rest of these books. I use Alpha Core number one as my Rippaverse gold standard when I judge a book that has really good emotional punch, has better pacing than most, and it was just a wild ride. Absolutely agree with that. Alpha Core number one is a really solid book. Chuck and Joe really knocked it out of the park with Alpha Core number one. It's just such an epic story. It gives us more insight into the Rippaverse, and of course, it's just a really good introduction to this really unique take on like the way superheroes interact with society by having a state-sanctioned superpowered team. Really love the Alpha Core for that, and Chuck and Joe were like the best people to really give us a solid footing of that character and that concept in the Rippaverse, and that's just like you said, it's a gold standard, and it really does do that well. You might have to use the hero stash. I did the hero stash for the signature series. So the thing with me is that where I'm moving from, like, there's some stuff I can still get, and I'll be able to. I won't have to worry about like not having it shipped. So I want to get into it, but like this order, like I'll be able to like I'll have my I'll be able to get to it even if I'm not there. But I don't want to get into like my personal situation because there are a lot of bad actors, and the more information I give, the more in a position I put people I care about in a bad position. So I don't want to talk about that, but everything will work out. Let's see. So GBA, I get that judgment, kind of how I feel about Bloodroof, a book that I am the target audience, has major writing hiccup. I can't get over more so than the splash page. I don't really see what the biggest issue in Bloodroof is other than the splash page. It might have been. I know one thing was that there wasn't enough gooding, so there might have been like just a lot going on in that book, and there certainly was. But to me, it was a really well structured book. But see, do I want to say Bloodroof is S tier? Yes. Would it be genuine? No. Okay, well, it's I guess your opinion. But see, I'm not sure if Beneath Forest Park put his criticism of Bloodroof there, but whatever it is, I'm not going to like knock you too much for it. It's just like I would want to see what it is and then like see if I agree with it or not, because I think Bloodroof is a really well structured book. But we're going into Gooding. So Gooding the Polymath is going to be the top of the B tier for me. This is a really good book. It's just that Mike Barron wrote a really short story. Of course, it establishes Gooding from his childhood. So it's a really good origin story, but it's not establishing why Gooding got to the position that he is in Forest Park and Shadow Valley. It just ends with him starting the emergency services in the urban areas of Forest Park. And of course, we know that Shadow Valley is outside of Forest Park, slightly so within that city state, I think. So explaining those dynamics is something that needs to happen. So hopefully that happens in the next Gooding one shot. Or I guess, yeah, Gooding graphic novel, one shot, whatever you want to call it. And it just continues and gives us more insight into what happens at the end of Gooding the Polymath and the beginning of Isom 2, or yeah, Isom 2 when he appears. But we'll go through the Ripazines and then we'll go through Isom 1 and 2. So we'll start with Salvage PI. Oh man, I absolutely love Salvage PI, and I think I think Salvage PI and then Sersha I'm going to put in the B tier. These two, because to me they're structured very similarly. I absolutely love them, but they're just short stories. They give us a little insight into these characters, a little teaser of them, and I really don't want to say more about them until we get, of course, the ongoing series for Saoirse and Saoirse #1, and of course that graphic novel Lethal Force, and that's where I feel more comfortable giving like a more definitive rating, because they're both really interesting, but they're just snippets of larger stories that Eric had rumbling around in his head. But we're going to go to Isom. See, Gooding is C tier to Meg Has Bad Knees, but it's my son's favorite. I really like Gooding as a book. It's a really good book, and I can see why it's your son's favorite. It's just like a really like interesting story of someone going from their childhood to being a super genius billionaire, and that is a really well structured story by Mike Barron. Of course, Bill Conrad does great work drawing. It's a really engaging book to read, and of course, with how short it is, it's a really quick read. So you have this really satisfying, quick experience, and I think that's why Gooding really resonates with some people. But we'll see. It's hard to judge Salvage and Saoirse because they're short, but I liked what I got, and I agree with that, CJ. GBA Garfield says Salvage is B tier for me so far. Saoirse, however, is A tier for me at the moment. I honestly can't disagree with you because Kanan's White is so good in Saoirse. Of course, we love the character of Saoirse. Let's see. Gooding was really solid story wise, kind of left off on an odd note since it didn't feel like a definitive ending to the story. I agree with you. Mike Barron really tied things up quickly. I don't think he gave us as definitive of an ending as he could have. And I think if Gooding was a 96 pager, and I think that's what honestly I would have done. If Mike Barron gave me the script and said, like, how would you like this knowing Gooding from Isom 2? It's like, well, can you add an extra 24, 25 pages to tell us how Gooding ended up in the situation he was right before Isom 2? And I think that would be like the definitive Gooding one shot. It didn't give us that, so the ending does feel a bit odd, which is why I'm placing it at the top of the B tier. It's still a really good book, but it's just we need more Gooding to really get a good understanding of that character. Why is Gooding in there in the first place if she was already going to the castle? Ultimately, he drags her to our evil duo to do something she was just about to do before being interrupted. I mean, I suppose, but Gooding, what is established in this, this happens a little bit before the events of Isom number one, because in Isom number two, her arrival at Bloodroof's castle, or I guess it's her castle now, is really recent, right? So Gooding was, of course, patrolling this, and it's established that they want the possession of this castle, so he's staking it out. He sees there and then brings her in. This is really the crossover aspect of this universe. So the Saskas use Gooding in Bloodroof as a way to establish the Rippaverse as a connected universe. The same thing they did with Stefania and Michael Copper and Uli Renashia in the first place. Is to make Bloodroof's story more or less her being a demon hunter, investigating some random castle, as this being that, as well as existing in this larger Rippaverse. I think that was something that the Saskas really intentionally did, putting that in to connect Bloodroof to Flores Park, and I think they did a really fantastic job at that. So, if Bloodroof was a character that existed in a vacuum, then I think there would have been a better way to present that, or just have her go in and add more demons and such. But that's not what Bloodroof's ongoing series is intended to be, and that's not how the Saskas are writing the story. They wanted to give a motivation for her investigating the castle that connected her character to Flores Park in the Rippaverse. So that's my pushback against you, of course, respectfully. So I still, if you still, disagree, if you disagree with me on that, that's perfectly okay. But I think that was part of the story being structured. I thought was really good. Let's see, Gooding was a bit light on action, which we kind of expected. Good story though. That ending scene between Splatterpuss and Gooding is really good. But yeah, it's light on action. But of course, I mean, the first, I don't know, quarter of that book, he's a kid in high school or middle school even, so it doesn't make sense for it to have action. It's a really good story, so I don't think every comic needs to be them like punching each other all the time, or them fighting, for it to be entertaining and interesting. But that's just a personal thing for me. But if and Gooding wasn't written to be an action comic book, it was written to be an origin story for this character that does exciting things, and things that are full of action, but he was the purveyor of Gooding services. So what Cato Gooding does isn't necessarily what Isom does. So Isom being a character where he was an except he's very physical. Of course, that book is going to have a lot of action. The same thing with Alpha Core fighting crime, right? That being a police procedural, there's going to be a decent amount of action. But I think Gooding's amount of action in Gooding the Polymath actually really works. But I'm so behind on the chat. Let's see, Salvage is B tier. Okay, and Sersha is F story wise for me. A little hard to give a proper ranking though, since they feel like the first 16 pages or so of a longer book. I don't know. I definitely agree with you on that. I think Sersha and Salvage are structured very similarly, in terms of both characters getting presented with a job, and then they start it, and then it ends at a very dramatic moment, which is why I said of a shorter book. But I already went through that. But thank you for the comment, Amaze. Mike has bad knees. The two short stories I would put in C, just because there's not enough material. Sersha does have S tier art though, it certainly does. It's more of a writing issue that could have been avoided by not acknowledging the castle when she first gets to Forest Park. Then he serves as more of a guide and makes him more necessary. I suppose that's I mean, to me that's a really minor thing. And I think with her being on Othello, I think it would have been inevitable, like, because it's just that castle out there on its own for her to have seen it. So I think I don't think that was the thing that was really getting to me when I was reading Bloodroof. But that's I think we're going to have to agree to disagree. But of course, I can definitely see that perspective. If it was structured like that, that would have been fine to me as well. Let's see. That made Michael Copper come across as a lot dumber than he should be. Her taking over a castle could have been handled in a much more natural way. Uh, I suppose, but I kind of like the way that it ended. But of course, I think really what it shows by them not putting the stipulation that the castle couldn't be taken as payment, it comes to arrogance, right? Because they see everybody as tools, the means to an end. So you don't expect your hammer to knock you back in the face when you use it. And I think that's the way Michael Copper was viewing Bloodroof and, of course, Gooding as well. So I think that speaks to his arrogance as a character. So when these things happen that are flawed, that I think is not it's not always indicative of bad writing. Of course, you can we can have that debate. But to me, I think that's more speaking to the arrogance of Michael Copper as a character. But that's just my take. But let's get through the rest of the chat. And then Gooding was already in contact with Bloodroof's father. He was trying to figure out a way to circumvent the castle's defenses, probably trying supernatural advice from him. Yeah, exactly. So he was assigned to get into this castle. He knew he couldn't get his tech in there. He was trying to find ways to dismantle it. So of course he's going to be around that area. And of course, Bloodroof's going to see the castle because she's observant, and with her vantage point, she was going to see that castle. So the way it went down, I think, makes sense to me. Let's see. Rippaverse just hates Michael, and we all know it. Black Eye Club has to do something really special to elevate him from being a punching bag villain. I don't think Michael Copper is this hated character. They both, Michael Copper and Lily Renashi, had a pretty good one up in Horseman #1. Of course, we've had basically Alpha Core being their biggest appearance, and they got a decent victory. They were able to elude the Alpha Core, and of course, they really damaged their reputation with what happened with Eagle's Nest, right? But they didn't get the full-on victory that they wanted. So I definitely think it's a pretty good standing. Of course, with the Flores Park Gazette and the Represents, I think Michael Copper is a really interesting character. And of course, I think Black Eye Club is going to really bring the thunder to Michael. It's going to make him a really interesting character, even more so than he already is, in my opinion. So Saoirse and Salvage are very similar story-wise, but Saoirse had a bunch of weird errors with things not making sense. Also did a much worse job at establishing the villain as a threat. I don't know, I can kind of agree with that. But let me see if I can't find my Saoirse comic book or my Saoirse book. But yeah, I mean, to me, I don't know. I'm not the I call myself a writer. But it's a pretty standard setup. But yeah, it's one of those things where I feel like there's stuff that happened before and after those 16 pages that could have given more context to the reader. Of course, we'd have to go through the specific things. Let's see. In Salvage, we see the villain in action before they encounter each other. And Saoirse, it's just some guy in the final fights with a random security guard lady. Yeah, I mean, I kind of see that, but it's kind of like a party going wrong. But that's really the thing there. It's hard to say because I think with it being like the full 96 pages, the full 72 pages, we'd have a be able to put that in the context because it definitely exists as part of a larger story. Let's see. Unfortunately, yeah, I get a bit of shafted in Alpha Core. Now he's been shafted in Bloodroof by making a really dumb deal. Let's see. Only Bloodroof criticism. I think Bloodroof coming off. The one guy going to power up Bloodroof to defeat the same demon need to be a better visual representation. Other than that, pretty fun comic. Let's see. The one guy. I don't necessarily understand that. But I guess you're talking about the end of the book. Let's see here. We got Michael Copper isn't a smart dude. Remember in Alpha Core, Lillian had to clean up his mess, but that's why I enjoy him as a character. He's a wealthy scumbag who doesn't apologize for it. Yes, Garfield, you get it. He's extremely arrogant. He's a playboy. And again, Lillian, I guess, I would say she's a bit more conniving and clever. But they both view people as tools, as a means to an end. That's why someone asked me in one of these live streams if Bloodroof is Bloodroof, Michael Copper and Lily Renashi are demonically influenced, and I think that's very possible because they like to work through people, and that's how the demons work. Let's see. I'd argue Saoirse is more of a spy thriller, where Salvage is more of a noir detective story. 100% agree of that. Let's see. This convo is putting holes in the whole repertoire narrative thrown at the fans. that we can't take criticism? No, is it that we don't read the books? Is it that we don't want the books to be good? Is that it's just we'll buy whatever we're told to buy? We'll just consume product and get excited for the next product. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. I love these these conversations. So, and I love the disagreements because this is where the really interesting stuff happens. But let's see, we got ISOM 1 and ISOM 2. And let's go with ISOM 1 first. Of course, ISOM 1 being the book that launched the Rippaverse. Really important book. And I'd say it's going to be the bottom of the A tier for me. And then I think I'm going to put ISOM 2 right next to it. And I think like the entire ill-advised arc is what I need the context for. Of course, ISOM 2 has a lot more of a focus on ISOM than ISOM 1. ISOM 1 being this launching pad that just establishes um, ISOM as a character, but also just the whole Rippaverse in general. Of course, you've got Alpha Core and you've got Yaira introduced, and then you've got Altona, Darren Fontano, and Santuan, and all of that being interlaced into the story of Jasmine Newman and Projexus. And of course, you've got Lincoln Usubicio introduced in ISOM number 2, and that whole fallout with Darren, of course, establishing his problems with Darren, and then Sam getting abducted by the Hellions, and then introducing Gooding and Bloodroof. There was a lot that went on in ISOM 2 that was establishing the universe as well. And of course, ISOM 3 has a lot to tie in. But to me, I think they're both A tier books. Cliff Richards did a really good job drawing both of these books, and both the original version of Isom and the remastered version of Isom in the Rippaverse Trinity is fantastic. And I love Isom 2 art as well. Let's see. So flagship book is going to be top of B tier, Isom 2 bottom of A tier. Eric's writing came a long way with number 2, and it's paced a lot better. It's just generally a better reading experience. Don't disagree with you there. Isom 2 benefited also because a lot of that establishing work was done with Isom number 1. Isom number 1 just introduces a lot. That you have that like thing where it's Isom getting thrown out by Santuan, and then you get into Yaira, and then of course just before that you have Yaira with the Alpha Core, and then it just transitions to Avery. So there's a lot of transitions. Like I said, there's a lot of moving pieces, and it doesn't really delve into any of them too deeply. It's just to get this off the ground and to give the writers, not just Eric. Eric was able to give Chuck Dixon the justification for writing Alpha Core. He was able to give the Saska sisters a justification for writing Yaira, especially with how Yaira number 1 starts, right? With her telling Avery to stay away from her, and then her just flying off. But it just establishes a lot of stuff at a certain point in time, and of course you need stuff before and after Isom to really make it feel less. I would say disjointed is the word. I guess disjointed is the term, but it's a launching pad for a larger universe, and I think Eric did a pretty decent job. That's why I say it's the bottom of the A tier for me, because I think, especially with Isom number 3, it's going to give us a really good first arc for the Rippaverse and just establish a lot about not only Isom, but the universe he exists in. And I think that was the point of Isom. I put Isom at C tier. Isom 2 is D tier. I enjoyed the introduction of Bloodroof and Gooding, but Isom 2 focused on Darren Font. I wish Isom 2 focused on Darren Fontano and Santon. And that's one of the things I kind of agree with you on. And I think this is the thing that I don't know. It's probably going to be the biggest flaw of the ill-advised arc going into the future, is that Isom was introduced with so many other characters that Isom probably should have been the story of Darren Fontano, Santon, and Club Merc terrorizing Jasmine Newman, right? Or something along those lines. And then having, and then I guess having slight run-ins with Alpha Core and Yaira, and then of course maybe Norfolka as all like teasers or something like that. But this book, like I said, it was structured to introduce a lot of characters that we are now seeing now. and like I said, introduce these characters and put them in a point of time where they can have these parallel stories that can overlap. I think for what that is, it's pretty good. And of course, with item number 3, we're definitely going to get a lot more Santuan. Hopefully some, I mean, Darren Fontano and hopefully Santuan. But yeah, item 2 does, I don't think it focuses enough on what would be the impetus for Isom getting back into hero work. And of course, I think that's his main story. And then you have all these stories happening alongside Isom as well. And I think that's the biggest flaw with Isom. But to me, I think that once we have Isom 3 introduced, or once we get Isom 3, we read that and we have that ill-advised arc concluded. When Isom 4 and the future Isom books come out, there's not going to be the problem that Eric is going to have with writing Isom. So he's going to be able to write stories that really heavily focus on Isom and his antagonists. And decent chance is going to maintaining, going to keep on being Darren Fontano. And I hopefully it is. And that's going to give us a lot. He's going to be able to focus a lot more on that story and make it much more structured and interesting for people who just want to see Isom. Because you don't have to do any of that launching pad establishing the comic book universe like he had to do with Isom 1 and 2, and of course tying off all those plot points in Isom 3. Let's see. Is Great War Separation the starting point for any of any newbie? I haven't seen anyone tell me that they started with Great War Separation #1. But if you're asking like if that would be if someone came to me and said I want to get into the Rippaverse, I would say start with Great War Separation #1, and then probably read Alpha Core and then Horseman. That's going to give you the best of the overview of Forest Park, and then of course Bloodroof and Yaira are going to give you more insight into the supernatural aspects of it. But I haven't had anybody who's gotten into it tell me specifically and I'm I don't have many people interacting with me. You guys are of course 10 viewers in the chat, and I get comments decently often. Again, maybe a couple or so a week. I definitely appreciate it, but I haven't had anybody new tell me, oh, a Great War Separation was my first Rippaverse book. Sure, it is for some people, but I can't confirm that. Let's see. I put both Isom 1 and 2 in B tier. Let's see. Not the best writing, but I love the world / lore building and the threads it opens for so many other stories. I agree. That's why I put it into A tier. For me. And Isom 1 and 2 is, I would say, especially Isom 1 was just this massive event. I came at a time in my life where I was able to really focus on it and really just get invested in the idea of the Rippaverse, and of course then the book itself, but of course there was just so little to go off of, and then Isom 2 gave us a little bit more, and then now in the year 2024 2025, I should say, they've really got the engine well oiled and just releasing so much, and this definitely feels like an actual legitimate publisher. It's what I absolutely love to see. So this is the final tier list, I would say, of all the current books I've read so far. So of course, feel free to cancel me. Feel free to pick at me virtually and say that I'm unsubscribing. I'm never watching Joker again because he put this book in that tier and I put that book in this tier. How dare you? Let's see. I'd say so. It shows. It serves as the universe prequel, so it doesn't require context from the books that sequentially come later. Yeah, I would agree. Let's see. So Joker. What? Gotta ask. What does it? What about Yaira that resonates with you so much that it took your top slot? Defends your waifu. Let's see. Why is Yaira my favorite book? I think for me, the biggest thing is just the origins of our character. Of course, in Yaira #2, we get a little bit of that insight. We get Yeshua, or however you say his, I don't know how to say his name, but of course, Yaira's childhood friend, and her, not being able to use her powers, and Yanessa and Yantoni and Magus Newmite coming after her. There's just so much about her character that interests me so much. And it's just indicative of this deeply complex cosmic aspect of the Rippaverse that she's a part of. Of course, Dalen and Dirty Deeds are as well, which is why I'm really excited to get Dirty Deeds, and hopefully we get it sometime this month. I definitely think they need to stop doing the signed and graded copies for the Rippazine, because that's got to be something that comes out quarterly. I definitely think they need to get to the point where they're releasing a Rippazine every quarter, and that's not going to happen if they have to constantly wait on the signed and graded copies. As cool as they are, I love my Golden Slaps, but I think doing them for the Rippazine going forward is just not going to make any sense. So Rippazine 4 and beyond, hopefully make it quarterly, and then just have that be no CGCs, or maybe do them at, like, way down the line, like once a year. Do like the Rippaverse CGC 2025 pack, right, or 2026, where they have 4 that they release in the year, and then they do a CGC pack for basically, like, the collector's edition, right? That's what I would personally do. But let's see, Yeshua, think Joshua. Yeah, I think yeah, it does make me think of Joshua. But I'm not sure like how to pronounce the name. Let's see, Yaira number 1 prison panels had a lot of aliens in it. Yeah, and Brian Solari's fought aliens as established in his Dokumon card. So I think aliens are like a known thing on Earth. That's a really interesting thing. But they could also be like mutants, because we've got X-Ups for all sorts of reasons. Of course, we got Billy Bob Quinn, so they could be mutants as well. They could. That's why they could not look human in that prison scene. But yeah, hopefully I answered your question. Oh, Joshua, they pronounced it on the stream. I remember them pronouncing it. I couldn't remember. I watched that Rippaverse roundtable, or a decent amount of it, and it's really cool. Hopefully, Chuck Dixon can come on the next Rippaverse roundtable and talk about Horseman Welcome to Flores Park, but or whoever. I'm sure they're going to talk about Horseman, hype up Horseman. Absolutely fantastic. Let's see. It's interesting that Yaira's planet uses Hebrew names. Yes, very interesting. Again, this is part of the reason why I'm interested in the in Yaira so much, because there's just so much, like, why is that the case, and how long has she been around exactly, and what are the origins of her powers, and how does Stefania get her powers, and what's the chain of ancestry between her and Stefania. It's just so interesting, and I think that's the reason why Yaira takes the top spot for me. And of course, how she crosses over with Isom is really interesting as well. So that's part of the reason why as well. And of course, I love the character design of Yaira, and I've got the Yaira statue right next to me. Yeshua, Yashua, Yashua, Yashua. Thank you, Yashua. Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I remember that's how they pronounce it now. It's Yashua. Yaira's native language is Yiddish. I'm not sure if it is. And I'm not sure if Yaira was a name that was given to her. But it's just interesting that she goes by that. And of course, you got Yashua. Um, but Yiddish is not. I don't know. It's more. I'm not sure if a constructed language is the correct term. But it's not as natural as Hebrew, and Hebrew is a language that had fallen out of being used commonly. Was revived in the early 20th century. So Hebrew, for traditional Jews, is a liturgical language. You're not supposed to use it in everyday conversation. That was one of the reasons why there was a pushback against reviving it. Of course, the person who revived it used the words from Arabic, because it's a Semitic language as well. It's in that language tree. You've got some languages in Ethiopia. I believe it's the Gayaz. That's what the Ethiopian Bible was originally written in, 88 books. So those are the Semitic languages. So there were some roots in Arabic, and they used that to revive Hebrew, and that's what the Hebrews and Israel speak today. It's a modern revived form of the language. And of course, we do have the biblical Hebrew, and that is something that I think we mostly understand. But I know Gopher would, that character Gopher, in the original Hebrew in Genesis, and when Noah is told to build the ark out of gopher wood, we don't know what gopher wood means exactly. We think it's a type of tree. So that's why it'd be gopher wood, like it would be oak wood. But that's really the only speculation. Of course, I think the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation, says like square timbers, I believe. So it doesn't really help us in like getting the meaning. But anyway, that's like my little translation nerd out. But yeah, I love languages. It's just such a interesting thing of history. So let's see. It's a joke, but guess I went on that with a joke. Just making references to the naming conventions being Hebrew. Yes, yes. Yes, oy vey. Let's see. The best book is Redacted. Of course, Andrew coming in the chat, refusing to give us the good information on, of course, what's coming up next. Hopefully, Alpha Core 2. Definitely want Horror. I'm pretty sure Hebrew is to Yiddish like Latin is to Italian. Yeah, Yiddish is a mix of Hebrew and like I forget exactly what other languages. I guess I can search it up now. Say Yidddish. Yiddish, yeah. Yeah, High German derived by yeah. So it's a mixture of Hebrew and German. So I think you have like your Central and Eastern European Jews that spoke Hebrew, and they combine it with German. That's why like schmiltz. It's got the sch, which is very common in German. Um, that's thing. That's part of the reason. But yeah, Yiddish is a language that kind of like was, I don't know. It's more of like a Vulgate. That's not necessarily like what with Latin and Italian, where you have Latin or Vulgar Latin as the language that was spoken throughout the Western Roman Empire mostly, and I think the Eastern Roman Empire, their lingua franca was Greek. Of course, there's a variety of languages. You had Hebrew and not Hebrew, but like Aramaic. That was spoken a lot in Judea, but and I think Syria. But anyway, you have Latin, Vulgar Latin, and then when the Roman Empire, Western Roman Empire, falls in 476, those groups are isolated and they start developing their own languages based on the regions they're living in. Of course, you have the Spanish. They start speaking, or the ones living in what was Roman Hispania, Roman Spain. They start speaking Spanish. They eventually, develop the language into Spanish, and then you've got the ones living on the Italian peninsula. They start speaking Italian, and of course in Gaul, that's where France develops with the Franks. And then you've got Romania and Eastern Europe. So that's where you have these actual languages just evolving from a mother language, whereas Yiddish is just a combination of Hebrew and German that formed, I think, if with like the diaspora. I could be a little bit wrong on that, but they're like slightly different formations. And it's a lot less of it's more of a I say natural, but it's more of a slower development. But it's kind of, I think, more like Afrikaans, which I think is like a Dutch language that developed in Africa because the Dutch colonized and that region in Africa, and their language. There was a language that formed by them living with the natives or something like that. So I would be more like that. Let's see. I have to admit, I'm impressed with your breadth of knowledge on the topic. Thank you. Uh, I consider myself an amateur historian, so I love talking to ChatGPT about like history and stuff. I talk to it a lot about the Roman Empire. It would just like tell me stuff. That's like where I would get just like sitting in bed, like just chatting with hours. Of course, like all the time for Wikipedia and stuff like that. So yeah, I like this stuff. Let's see. So Doku Banju strikes again. It's good to see you again. That's what Mini Floor Spark is saying to Andrew. It definitely is good to see Andrew again. Let's see. You're talking about Germanic. Yeah. So Germanic, that's a language that formed in Central Europe. Of course, the Germanic people. They migrate all over with the Anglos and the Saxons into Britain, and their language eventually forms into English. So English is a Germanic language. So it's the same language that developed into modern day German. And I think some other languages from that region, I believe maybe Dutch, although my I'm not the best on the language trees, so I would have to search that. But yeah, it's the Germanic family of languages. Um, It's not Latin. So you have the Latin languages, which is, Latin developing into Italian, Spanish, French, and Romanian. And then you've got the Germanic languages, which develop into German, English, and a couple of others. So they're the ones that are spoken in the more the northern Western European before you get into like Russia. I think Russian and Greek. I think those have the more of a similar origin because they both use the Cyrillic alphabet. But let's catch up with the chat. I knew Redacted was going to be a good one. Redacted is going to be the best book of Maze. Let's see. Well, this turned into a rabbit hole. Well done. Absolutely. This is the thing is that you guys get me talking about random stuff because this is all real. Why it's a live stream, and I don't know. Rambling is like that's my profession. That's all I was put on this earth to do is just ramble randomly. I see. So Mike S. Miller's cover is the best one in my opinion. That's Student of Gods. Mike in the past had said he was never going to do any work for Rippaverse on Twitter. He's a top artist. He did Injustice. Yeah, I've heard a lot about Mike Miller. Of course, Dave, he's gotten into a lot of spats with CG on Twitter. So I'm not familiar with his work too much. And oh yeah, Injustice being a DC property. I know there's the fighting games Injustice. I guess that's like a loose adaptation, or imagine a really loose adaptation of some arc that involves the Justice League. Let's see. So, whoa, you can't comment on history unless you're an expert. Yeah, yes. I didn't go to. I didn't go to university for 10 years or so to tell you that everything in history is racist. So I can't speak about history. So I'll stop talking about it. So Civil War history and Russian history I find super interesting because they don't teach it in public school. Yeah, well, if you're talking about the American Civil War, the reasons why the Civil War happened is presented as solely slavery. And while slavery is a very divisive issue, of course, it's a very deep moral question of how slavery was practiced, not just in the United States, but globally, especially the transatlantic slave trade. And then a couple of years before, you have the abolitionist movement in Britain, and then, of course, eventually leaking over into America. So it was a deep conflict between the abolitionists and the plantation owners that owned slaves, which was a minority of people. Most people didn't own the big plantations where you had people picking cotton and growing tobacco, or the slaves picking cotton and growing tobacco. That was a minority of the population, and there were people. But anyway, there was also this conflict with states' rights. This idea of the Union being too powerful, and of course, you had people who had the Articles of Confederation. That was where they wanted to live under, and you had states having their own currency and having a lot more autonomy than we think of states having today. And the federal government was seen as encroaching on that, and slavery being one of those defining issues, right? If you have a union where some states allow slavery and some states don't, and you have these conflicts between the interstate commerce and, of course, like the Runaway Slave Act and stuff like that. The idea of the sovereignty and the autonomy of states within the Union is something that was massively encroached upon with the issue of slavery. And then with the Reconstruction era, the federal government took a role over the autonomy of the states. That's been completely different than what I think definitely should be, especially in the light of how I view the government as a libertarian. But that's getting into politics. And then Russian history, I don't know much except about the ancient beginnings. Of course, you have the Kievan Rus, and that's the empire that forms Russia. And there's, of course, Catherine the Great, Peter the Great's establishing St. Petersburg. But I don't know too much about Russian history. That's something I definitely would have to study up on. Of course, I know about a bit about Stalin and the Cold War antics. Let's see. So top 5 Roman emperors: Augustus. We love Augustus Caesar. Trajan, Aurelian, Marcus Aurelius, and Claudius. I've read Meditations, Garfield, and if you haven't, I recommend. It's a fantastic book. Marcus Aurelius is a fan. Definitely was a great figure in history. You got let's see. I think you're talking about Trajan. But yeah, Augustus establishing the empire. I guess I would need to read up more about what Trajan. But yeah, Trajan was the emperor during 117 when he died. He helped establish it at its peak, and I think and Hadrian built the wall. So Trajan was the one who expanded. Hadrian kept the empire strong domestically. Marcus Aurelius, of course, was able to maintain what his forefathers had built with the Macromotic Wars. They didn't really gain much, but they didn't lose much. So he was able to maintain the border at the Danube. Of course, his son Commodus, absolutely worthless, was part of the start of the massive decline. And of course, in the near the end of the 5th century is when the Western Roman Empire falls, and we have the Eastern Roman Empire continue from Byzantium, or Constantinople, I should say. Let's see, Trajan. That's what you were talking about. You see, I'm not going to say this on because I don't want to get censored on YouTube, but the low intellect person on Joe Rogan recently said you have to be an expert to talk about history. You can't talk about the black struggle unless you're black. Yes, of course. But this is so typical of identitarians. Especially the leftist identitarians. And I've talked about this. You watch Hump Day Potpourri if you want, Doc and I, because that's my co-host on Hump Day Potpourri, and we talk about this stuff all the time. But this is to be the Rippaverse, right? It's a random history talk. I'm glad you're liking it, Amaze, but we're supposed to be talking about the comic books. But if you guys want me to keep talking about history, you can ask me, and I can tell you what I know. Or we can actually talk about the Horseman #1. I've been live streaming for an hour. Man, time absolutely flies. But yeah, Horseman is fantastic, and it's so cool to see this #1 launch. And of course, we do have some signed and graded copies that are being launched for books that didn't get them initially. So I did buy some of these. These are currently in my hero stash. I want to hopefully ship these out at a much later date. And I only got a couple. I got I think 2. I got the B and C for Zalen, and I got I think the B, the retro covers for 1 and 2 of Great War Separation, because it just wouldn't too much money for me to buy all 3 packs, like the 12 books, 12 signed and graded copies, basically all at once. So I just could not justify it. I could barely justify the amount of money I spent on the signed and graded copies. And of course, the Horseman #1. God, my wallet hates me. Or not my wallet hates me. My wallet hates the Rippaverse. So all the detracting from the Rippaverse is planned by my wallet, so that way I'll actually, save money. Let's see. The whole show is being done by AI, guys. That's how he knows all of this. Yes, I am I'm the next ChatGPT Grok model. Of course, I got a little bit of Gab programming, so sometimes I'll have a Nick Fuentes level take, but I'm an artificial intelligence. I'm the largest language model. But I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know. I don't consider myself to be nearly as knowledgeable as I would like to be on basically everything, especially theology, because I've really recently gotten into theology and philosophy as well. But yeah, especially theology. But there's just a lot about history, and I know a decent amount on stuff about science as well. But yeah, recently gotten out of being materialist. So while science is really interesting and I love understanding the material physical world, it's just not as appealing as like understanding God and understanding our history as a species. And that really comes from a study of history, philosophy, and theology. Let's see, transcript all of your live streams so I can load it. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure YouTube puts out good transcript files. Um, but yeah, I think the transcripts are on by default. But I can see if that's something I have to set. But I'm pretty sure I don't. So we've got, let's see. What else to talk about? We've been live streaming for a little over an hour. Of course, we've got 9 people in the chat, a pretty consistent amount. Which is absolutely fantastic. You guys are sticking with me throughout all my random ramblings. But Great War Separation 2, and of course I'll talk about all this on the 61st episode. of Braxcast. I don't know what the number is off the top of my head, but I'll get that out to you guys tomorrow. The pre-recorded episode that I do every Saturday. I know that I got an audience for it, so and I'll talk about the signed copies. Of course, I'll talk about Horseman #1 and show off all of the covers and tell you who drew them, and give a little bit. Yeah, I think that's what it was going to be, because I was thinking that Horseman wasn't going to launch this week, because they just dropped it on like Thursday night, after I scheduled a live stream. And I had the title, what's the best Rippaverse book, and we did that. I got Anthony Buck in the chat. Let's see. So Aurelian, I don't know Aurelian Garfield. If Aurelian didn't get assassinated, he would be number one of Roman emperors. Dude took power when the empire collapsed and split it into three parts and reunited it in a few years and reestablished power. Yeah, I think I kind of remember that. But yeah, there was definitely like the year of the free emperors. There's a lot of instability, but you did have some good Romans that were able to maintain it. And of course, you have the Eastern Roman Empire that was able to persist for 1,000 years. And they're able to really be a bulwark against the rising Islamic Empire. Of course, you have the caliphates. You have I'm not sure if there were you had the I think you had the four rightly guided caliphates, and that was the Rashidun Caliphate that was initially after Muhammad, or at least supposedly Muhammad. I talk a lot about like the doubts of Muhammad as a historical figure. Not to say that there wasn't someone like Muhammad that existed, and there wasn't a religion, the religion of Islam, forming around that person, but there's just so much embellishment, and the Hadith and the Quran as like one historical account is so unreliable, especially in comparison with the gospel and the history of the early Christian church. But that's a whole other discussion. But Anthony Bach is saying, hello to you. I don't believe I've seen you in the chat, so it's nice to see you. Of course, we've got the covers for Great War of Separation 1 and 2 are getting signed in graded packs. We've got, the B covers for those was the retro covers. I think, I don't know, to me, those are the most collectible. So that's what I went for. I love the foiled and embossed covers, but of course, those are a bit more expensive. And these are shots of Brian Solari, which, they look really good. But to me, I think the retro covers are a bit better. So let's see. Chat, how much cover would you like to reverse to me? For me, Creeping Death cover for the Shadow. Oh, yes, I forgot that. Yeah, so I'm so sorry that I forgot about that. But Student of God and I, we talk in the DMs, of course. Let's see, Creeping Death cover, the Shadow, and one of the things you said is like, what would be homage covers to do? Because of course, you can make. I'm not sure if you're referencing this cover here. I'll see. We'll open the link in a new tab. That's not what I wanted to see. I wanted to open the image in a new tab, so that way I can show this off to you guys. We'll get Tune of God's chat, but this is his suggestion, right? And you're saying yes. So let's see. This would be cover, Creeping Shadow Death for the cover. So I guess a homage. This probably would work as a blood roof because you got the hat here, and you could probably have like blood. Oh, for salvage PI. Yeah, I could see that working. But if you wanted to ask me specifically, we'll go like real old school, and we'll go for Action Comics #1, right? And I think having like Brian Solari or Yaira do this pose would be fantastic. I would absolutely love something like this to be referenced. And then of course, let's see. Oh no, I'm not the best with this. No, I don't know. I love Invincible. So Sybil #1. I read the traits. So this is the first cover of Invincible. Of course, you've got the Invincible show, which I watched the first season. That's what got me into reading the comics. So I'm thankful for it existing for that. But to me, the comics, I read the comics or read the side stuff. Gabe El Taib colored some of the Invincible Universe stuff. It's really good. And I think like all of Big Man Comics books, I read or the books that he's done independently, Truth, Justice, and the American Way. and then Dean Cain All American Lawman, which I believe was like the first comic review I ever did on Velvet Room Publishing, like the first filmed one, and then I did Yaira right after that. So they're not my best work, and I don't know, I don't think I ever made a video that I can think of like you guys think is good. Yeah, but I definitely need to step up my game. See, Batman's origins took a lot from Shadow and Zorro. Yeah, definitely. So let's see. Logic's Finest, nice to see you in the chat again. And saying the fact that you have a multitude of books to choose from is the best part. It's not Isom and the side characters, it is an entire fleshed out, growing universe. I absolutely agree with that. And I think that's why um Isom was written in the way that was written to justify having these books come out. And I think for that, that's what I'd prefer things to be. And I like what they're doing at the Rippaverse, which is why I'm doing everything that I'm doing. Let's see. So take a look at Superman is a jerk cover. So we'll take a look at that. Let's see. Superman is a jerk cover. Let's see. Not sure. Let's see. Are talking about this one? Let's see. Jimmy Olsen and Aquaman while in the desert. Let's see. My favorite is Superman with a pitcher of water laughing at Jimmy Olsen and Aquaman while in the desert. Let's see. Oh, this is what you're talking about. Let's see. This is what you're talking about, right? And we'll do right here. So this is a classic one. So Superman, stop this crazy Tesla, water or die. Sorry, Jimmy. The ground rules. Only one a survivor. You or Aquaman. This is a bit funny. I'm not sure necessarily who would be able to do this, but this is probably the better way to look at this cover. Let's see here. Let's see. So hopefully, so you can pick up any book and enjoy it. Enjoy it on its own merits. The different offers give their own talents. I definitely agree with that. There's a really lot of fun Superman being a jerk covers. I can imagine. See, I kind of think the Spider Girl cover that got that guy canceled goes for like $1,000 on eBay. I can imagine. But let's see. You know what, guys? How about the Rippaverse does? Let's see. We'll go for this. Well, what about this, guys? Don't you want the Rippaverse to do a homage cover to the best comic book ever made? It's the Harley Quinn fart tack. I can't. Oh man, but this is where modern comics is. Oh, okay. We'll go back. I'm gonna just type in Action Comics just to get me away from the slop. Would be a good one because it involves cancel culture. Oh yeah, so you're talking about the Spider. Like I know it's just Spider Girl comic cover. No, this is not this. Let's see. Oh, I think you're talking about something like this, right? This cover here, because you have Spider Woman in a pose that accentuates her feminine features, and of course, this is the big discussion with Marvel Rivals. I haven't played it. It's like an Overwatch clone with Marvel characters, and the thing is they farmed it out to an East Asian studio, and they made the female characters and the male characters, but they made the female characters actually attractive and have nice designs that pay homage to what they look like in the comics. And you especially see stuff like this. It's like you read comic books or you engage with any art to see a higher representation or to see beauty. And when we're talking about women characters, that sensuality, that those feminine wiles, being voluptuous, having those curves, and being in poses that shows that off is what makes comics. That's what comics are, all about. It's for the male characters as well. You've got Wolverine, in manga you got like Goku, and talking about the Rippaverse, look at Brian Solari, look at Horseman. They're absolutely like ripped, massive dudes. Very, very very good specimens, examples of the human form, and exaggerating these aspects that we personally find to be attractive and indicate this exceptionalism. Yeah, so dude, God, I can imagine that, because this is a whole thing. Is that it's this intentional destruction of the culture, and you do that by destroying beauty. So beauty, and this, I think this comes as a result of nihilism, especially with the materialistic atheist worldview, because you have this assumption that we're all just matter, colliding into each other, and that you can't have these immaterial conceptual concepts be grounded in something, that being God, and of course, God having a purpose, and that purpose resulting in things being objectively beautiful and things being objectively ugly, and us wanting to glorify and exemplify the beauty in the world and using fiction to do that. I'm not saying like every single shot of every of or just women being attractive and showing that off necessarily does that, but that's really the thing, is that it's a movement that goes against beauty as this concept that can exist objectively. So it's all about this relativism. It's all about doing things that are bizarre. It's all about putting your own, like, I don't know. It's the SoCal arts, and a lot of it's really low tier toilet humor, because you have it's, why the Harley Fart comic. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, this was peak Me Too there. Yeah, so Me Too, as I would say, definitely, I don't know, sometime probably around COVID is when Me Too kind of petered off as a movement. Um, let's see. Emma Frost is pissing off a lot of the journalists that are mad. Another sexy blonde white woman is being added to the roster. That's the thing I've been saying, is that Emma Frost is not like, they didn't swap her to be some multicolored lesbian that's constantly complaining about heteronormative capitalism, or whatever they're talking about these days. um they actually made her like an attractive white woman that's paying homage to the comics. Let's see. As much as I love Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, everyone forgets that Goku ripped off Superman's origin story. Yeah, but I don't know. It's not that Goku's origin story has to be unique. It's just that Dragon Ball is entertaining, because of all of the action, and these characters are just lovable because they have these great designs and they go on these really epic journeys. And I think Goku's origin story is a lot of fun. And there's a lot of lore and backstory that makes it all feel unique and worth getting invested in. So I don't know. I don't really see the issue with it. Let's see. Garfield, you sir are an absolute legend. This Logic Fine is saying that, but I agree. Don't say much, but I see you everywhere. Keep up exposing the hypocrisy for your humor and common sense. Yes. I definitely see Garfield a lot, especially in the comments of a lot of videos that are, I don't know, critical of all the nonsense. So he's definitely a fan, and of course I would say, probably as aware of all of that. I call it the detractorverse, and that's what my co-host of Hump Day Potpourri, Doc, likes to call it, and I keep him up the tabs on it. And I told him about, we know about our lovely friend at All Caps Comics paying people to make the puppet shows. And of course, the Great War of Separation, there was a review that was, the review promo video was lampooned. And I was in that video. I had a brief appearance in that one. My review was featured. So very thankful to the Rippaverse team for showcasing not only that review, but multiple of my reviews. And of course, I was made fun of in that review. That's all well and good. But I told him, I said, like, oh yeah, he gets paid, guess who? And he's like, no man, it's just too ridiculous. But anyway, that's the whole. Let's see, Paul of the Dirty Deeds cover. There's obviously Spider-Man. Let's see if I can find Ripazine free, and I don't think it's necessarily a cover, Student of God. I think it's just it's not a cover. It's that design of not the poster. Let's see if I can't find the shirt. But you're talking about the, yeah, Garfield is it's the shirt. And that was one thing that I remember. I don't know. I think it was, I forget who exactly. And even if I did, it kind of got the oh yeah, fandom unleashed, I guess. But anyway, whatever. I think they've got slightly more people viewing than me. But anyway, they were bringing up that shirt, and I'm not sure we can go to the store. and I can find it. But that was, a clear homage to Spider-Man. Of course, ripping, it's a rip off. It's fraudulent. You can't pay homage. You can't reference stuff. But that's of course, I think it's part and parcel of doing comics. But yeah, you're talking about Springy from Dirty Deeds, him having a little bit of a homage to Spider-Man because he's in that similar pose. And let's see if I can't find the shirt. I got the Horseman Skull shirt. I'm wearing that to celebrate the fact that Horseman is a thing. That shirt might have sold out. Let's see. Or I might have missed it. Let's see. So we got the first shirt here. Of course, we got these new Horseman shirts. Those look really cool. I love, the character design for Horseman. Let's see. Got some Great War Separation shirts. Page 2. Back. Let's see. Because we're on page 2 right now. Got Isom versus Devling. You got the Horseman shirt. Let's see. Villain accepts. I'm not seeing it, but let's see. I'm just gonna search Ripazine Springy, and let's see if I can't find in images. Okay. Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. I just can't find it. But anyway, that was the it must have sold out, I guess, and they don't have it up on the store anymore. If Andrew could send me a picture, that'd be nice. Let's see. The woke has ruined the words problematic, literally, representation, diverse. If you use these words, I ignore you from the start. That's problematic. I'm literally the most diverse representation of the autistic mindset there could be. And you're committing a microaggression by even commenting on this. So I'm sorry, Logic Finest, but you're banned. Oh man. Let's see. There was a comment. Let's see. A lot of oh yeah. So I didn't know that was something, but I guess your Yellow Flash's alt account. Let's see. Let's see. At least your plot. Let's see. A lot more relevant to this whole mess. Even tangentially. You're talking about Garfield's Bizarre Adventure. Let's see. But let's see. So yeah, Dirty Deeds had that shirt, the springy shirt. People like that. If I hear my community, I also zone out. Yeah, that's the collectivism. So I don't think pure individualism works, but pure collectivism certainly doesn't. And that's what the woke are really tribal. So this is identitarianism. This is the progressive stack where you are trying to hone yourself in or be a part of these oppressed groups, and then your oppressed group is your community, and you're advocating for your community in everything that you do. Which is why, every movie, every video game, every comic book has to be something that your community can feel represented by, and that is part of the reason why our art entertainment is in the position that it is, because the creatives are all these weirdos that are focused on that instead of telling good stories. But that's a very well established thing that people who have commentated on it for a lot longer and a lot better than I have. I guess we'll go back to Horseman number 1. So we've been streaming for almost 90 minutes now. Thanks, for everybody watching. See, Spring's going to take the Rippaverse by storm. He's going to choke out Zeon. I think Dokuma is going to follow the Springy, and then Isom as well. He's going to be the God Emperor of the Rippaverse. But yeah, see, I have to cancel myself. I assumed my gender. How dare you assume your own gender? But God, I wrote a book on gender ideology. It's going to come out in 2 months, but I finished it over a year ago at this point. And the whole thing is that in gender ideology, there's this concept of being an egg. This is mostly for most of the trans phenomenon is being a trans woman. So you're a man born male, and you realize you're a woman. And there are people that are susceptible to developing the rapid onset gender dysphoria or falling victim to autogynephilia, and those people are eggs that they're referred to. So like you're someone who is trans, but you don't know that you're trans yet. And then of course, once you assume the trans identity, you're always trans. So if you're an egg, so if let's say I'm 27, and then tomorrow I realize that everything I did in my life was just like this pale attempt at me denying my womanhood, then I have always been a woman and I will always be a woman. And if anyone doesn't refer to me as a woman, they're misgendering me, and that is a a crime, right? And that's the premise of gender ideology. That's the whole another weird tangent. But yeah, again, I have to say that because that is I think that's one of the wackiest concepts of gender ideology. There's so many wacky ones. But yeah, I think what I would love to do is like do like a Twitter space and just have some say statement, especially after book comes out about transgenderism. It's like say I say something along the lines of like I think they don't exist. Prove me wrong. But that's a whole other thing. Let's see another idea for a tier list. Let's get the comment back up. Rippaverse covers. What do you think? Definitely not against that. I could definitely probably whip one of those up next week. It's just there's so many freaking books for the Rippaverse. So I guess I would have to I don't know, there'll be a lot of covers to do. And I think that would be like a really long time. So maybe what I would want to do is just pick like the best Rippaverse covers from you know let's say 2020, first one. Yes, it would be a full show if I did every single cover. So I might want to break it up a little bit, but yeah, that's something I definitely would do. Let's see. The trans phenomenon is through government and leftist propaganda. It's not organic. It's all about depopulation. Yes, I've talked about this. It's something that's been psyoped, and the groundwork for it was laid back around the 50s, the 60s. Of course, you had Lily Elba around 1930. That man got an ovary and then a uterus implanted into him, and then he died from those complications. So this idea of transgenderism was pushed in the early 20th century. Was with the sexual revolution which happened in the 60s, and of course you had these you have Sigmund Freud and these various sexologists that are like studying and doing like really wacky stuff, and that was the foundation for gender ideology. And then it was within the last, I don't know, 10 years or so when like you said with US aid, and of course we know everything like the CIA and the FBI do in terms of messing with the domestic population. This was pushed onto the population, and part of that is depopulation, because if you can get them as kids and get puberty blockers into them, then you're basically sterilizing them. It's a guarantee if you do it for long enough. But then that book will be for free, debunking gender ideology and how to manage gender dysphoria, and I go into like all of the medical, not all of it, but a lot of the medical, like I don't know, the destruction of the body that medical transition causes. I cover that in great detail, more detail than I would ever want to know. Just do it as the whole show. Yeah, that would be like it would take me like, I don't know, probably just as long as this. I have to put on a couple of YouTube videos and download all the covers and make that tier list. But yeah, it's definitely something I want to do. Let's see. I also heard Matt Barr is doing a cover for Rippaverse. Not sure which book though. But yeah, no, I wouldn't doubt that. Matt Barr did Rock and Roll Ninja. I'm sure he's done other stuff. Because he's been around. He's done a lot of stuff. He's definitely a bit more abrasive than I, prefer people to be. But that's, a whole other thing. He's a fantastic artist. He did a great job on Rock and Roll Ninja. Check out my review if you want to know more about that book. Getting is a whole other question. Zach is so bad at running a comic book business, but that's not the point of this. But Rock and Roll Ninja is a fantastic book, and part of that is because Matt Barr is a fantastic artist, especially how detailed he is, and he's able to maintain being stylized regardless of how much detail he uses. But that is a whole other thing. So we've got again Horseman number 1. If you guys have any other like homage covers you want me to do that you think the Rippaverse ought to do, then and I can pull that up and we can gab about that. But we've been going for over 90 minutes, so I think these live streams are good as being like 90 minutes to 2 hours. Of course, if there's anybody that wants to come on and gab with me for about half an hour or so, welcome to do so. I can put the link in the chat. If Andrew's still in the chat and wants to talk about Rippaverse, uh, yeah, Zach needs to get off of YouTube and finish his books. I think that's what he needs to do. He needs to get off of YouTube, finish all of his comic books, stop making them for the most part, and then do maybe a couple of books with I guess farm it out. Maybe like I guess Rock and Roll Ninja and whatever else people are interested in. Maybe he should just give it to like Chuck Dixon and Matt Barr to do Rock and Roll Ninja, because that's the only thing I can think of that's really interesting. I think everything else is like kind of eh. Um, and then he just needs to get back into IT or do something else. Because I don't think I think he's way out of his depth now, and I think he's not enjoying commentating anymore, because everybody's just a birthday party clown, including me at this point. Because see, Rock and Roll Ninja is a 9 out of 10 for me. Super fun. I agree. It's a great book. I just wish Zach would give it to Chuck Dixon and Matt Barr, because I think they'd be able to facilitate the publishing and the press and the publishing of the book a lot better than Zach can. That's the thing. He's just not good at the business side of the comic books. Yeah, I think he had a lot of really good commentary, especially in the earlier part of this decade, because we're in 2025 now. I started watching a couple years ago, so that's the way I'm conceptualizing the 20s now. Um, but yeah, so he had some pretty good commentary, and I think he saw a lot of the industry for what it was. Especially that's what I get the impression of back in 2018. That's why Jawbreakers was a success, and that's why he was able to make Splato Comics his full time thing at all and start doing the YouTube commentary thing. But he's certainly fallen off, and he's gotten he's even to the point where I remember him being very positive about the Rippaverse and him liking it, and now he doesn't like it. I mean, of course, he's welcome to not like the books and have his problems with it, but now it's just like every time Eric makes a tweet and it's too long, it's a statement, and there's all these essays, and it's just coping over the books coming, or it's coping over him running the business or him responding to stuff in a way. But that's the most things with these guys, is that it's just it's a lot of tone policing and concern trolling, and of course it's just making these assertions that we've been scammed or defrauded, or that like there's no value to the books in and of themselves as entertainment, and that being worth it, it has to be something that has to be like resold. So but whatever, that's a whole other thing. So Zach recently told his backers that he had lost his enthusiasm for making comics and said he was having a crisis of faith in regards for crowdfunding. Like, dude, you already took the money, finish the books. Yeah, I agree. So I agree so much. But this is the thing, is that he's way out of his depth. He's overextended himself so much. And a lot of the audience has checked out and doesn't I don't think necessarily even agrees with his takes anymore, because he's gotten into this point where he wants to be a writer for Marvel or DC. I mean, probably Marvel more, but I don't know what his exact preference would be between, I don't know, 1993 and 2005. That era of Marvel comics, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, maybe like 1988 to like the year 2000, like writing for that era of Marvel. And he wants like the comic book industry to be the way it was probably in the early 90s. That's probably around the peak for that generation, and then it kind of all started falling apart in the mid to late 90s, and then you have that comic book crash happening around like 99, around the time I was born. Is when the comic book industry really started to crash, and it kind of never really recovered, and now we're in the very sad state it is today. But yeah, I think he needs to just finish what he can, get out, and then, like I said, Rock and Roll Ninja and whatever other interesting ideas he should probably just sell to people, and just and like I said, just get an office job, spend time with your family and disconnect from YouTube, because I just don't think it's something that he enjoys anymore, and I don't think the commentary has the value that it did, um, beforehand. But I don't have anything against them, and I like the Narzak books, and I liked Rock and Roll Ninja, and I have Grand Bazaar. I'll read that. But Jawbreakers Forever was like, the art was really good, just didn't really do it for me as a story. But I didn't have the other books, and I think with Rock and Roll Ninja, I only got Rock and Roll Ninja. I didn't get those add-on books I ordered with it, and I think that was the first Jawbreakers book with the EVS cover. So I haven't read that. So if I read that, then maybe. But it's not. I don't think it's I don't think him doing the YouTube commentary and the crowdfunded comic game is really fruitful to him anymore. And if he's saying that he's having a crisis of faith and all of that, I'll take your word for it, Garfield. And I think that lines up with how I've seen him, or what I've seen of him. Following his community posts and such, because I haven't really watched his the videos for a while, or like not how I used to. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But or it's definitely my statement. I say, love him or hate him, Eric July has exposed a lack of professionalism and, more importantly, business sense amongst comic creators. I agree with that. But I think the mainstream did a really good job at doing that themselves. And of course, the Rippaverse has basically been blacklisted from any sort of mainstream institution. Of course, you've got some people who were pretty big in the mainstream scene. I'm not sure of Mark Millar, who he did Vatican City with Narwhal, and I reviewed that. I got a review copy of that. It was really cool. It made me feel like I'm a legit reviewer. And of course, Zaid Comics sent me some books. I need to review those. Those will get reviewed this month. Zaid Comics, if you're watching. I know he's at a con with his brother. But if you watch the replay of this, Zaid Comics, I will get the books that you sent me very graciously reviewed by the end of this month. That is Magic Cop and the Lost Pages. So we'll look out for those reviews. And they're high quality, and flipping through them pretty cool, but I need to sit down and I need to read them. Doesn't care about his blatant hypocrisy. That's with Zach. I guess talking about Zach. Yeah, but that's a whole thing. It's like, I don't want to turn this into like a trash cast. Let's see, market yourself, put out a product consistently, and give fans what they want, not what everyone wants, but those that buy from you. Seems simple, but artists are bad businessmen, always have been. But yeah, of course the artists are going to tell you that if you if you tell the artists that they don't know how to run a business, or they don't know how to they don't have any sense economically, that's an insulting thing. And there are artists that know how to do it, but a lot of creatives, they just do not have um is savvy for business or marketing, and they are so invested in the craft and getting the craft correct, and doing it in a certain way. And of course, a lot of that is for your peers and for your own gratification, and having done a job well done, that you forget about the people who are consuming it. And this is the thing I think that Eric was really able to outline well on the AI art video, is that there are going to be people that, if you can prompt ChatGPT or a Sora to make a movie that's actually on the quality of Studio Ghibli. The animations that have been made with AI in the Ghibli style. There was the Trump animation, basically like a trailer for like a Trump movie. It's really really stiff. Like you can tell, it's AI cobbling stuff together. Of course, like the visuals are inherently funny, but that's where AI generated video and a lot of the AI generated content is now. It's people doing this really absurd stuff in the Ghibli style, and that's what's the engaging. But it's not something that can stand to Whisper of the Heart or My Neighbor Totoro, or anything like that. One day it's going to be, that's the inevitable end of this technology, and people aren't going to care. If you can go into ChatGPT and type, I want to watch a movie in Studio Ghibli style about like the 2024 election cycle, and it generates like a 2-hour epic, and it's of that style, and it's all perfect, and it looks like it was made by a team of real people. People are going to be just fine consuming that. People are not going to care about the artists and the artistic craft and the artistic integrity, and all this stuff is really important. I think there's a massive charm that Studio Ghibli has, and I don't think AI can ever replicate that. I definitely think that you can have people drawing keyframes for animation and having AI doing the interpolation and a lot of the backgrounds, especially as it gets better. So you can have an artist basically be like a one-man animator with AI eventually, and I think that's something that's going to be, that's going to be more acceptable than me. But just people are going to be just fine when the AI slop gets a bit gets high quality enough where you can't tell that it's AI. People are going to be just confined consuming that AI content, and especially as prompt engineering gets better. Google released a course on prompt engineering. So if you don't know what prompt engineering is, it's going into ChatGPT or any LLM and getting it to make the output that you want based on your input. So when you type like, generate a picture of a cactus, right, or something like that, and you want the desert or whatever, like typing it specifically to get the exact desert scene that you want, right? And using as few words as possible, using as few tokens as possible. That's what the language is for a lot of AI in terms of like quantifying your use. That's where things are going to be going, especially as it gets more advanced and there's more like history of prompts and there's more content that it's been trained on. It's going to be like where you can just do it in like one sentence. Like, it's like, I want to like a 90-minute to 2 hour epic about the 2024 election cycle, and it just generates that perfect movie, in the Studio Ghibli style, of course. And you've got like, again, those visuals are really funny. Let's see. We'll get back to the chat. So, plenty of artists have died broke on the hill. On the hill of my artistic purity, Van Gogh died broke. Yes, that is certainly true. A lot of creatives and crowdfunding make it a vanity project. Yeah, so this is the thing, and I want to write an essay, or I should say an article. I've been calling them articles now, on the comic book industry. And the thing is that the creatives who are perpetually or chronically late in fulfillment are viewing the crowdfunding model as an investment and their backers as investors. So it's basically like being, like patrons of the art. And then if you get the comic book at some point, that's just you being gracious to your patrons, rather than I'm trying to build an actual business and treat the people who give me money for the comic books like customers. That's what Eric is doing with the Rippaverse, right? And that's why he's experiencing multi-million-dollar success. Of course, even with Eric's model, people are like, I pre-order the book, I have to wait a couple months for it. And it's, I have to get it shipped to me. The optimal experience that you would have if you are experienced with comics, you walk into your local comic book shop, you see the Spider-Man back issue, you buy it. You get a Justice League omnibus, you buy it. You don't have to pay shipping. Of course, the LCS has to pay, the shipping fees, and they have to have the costs associated with brick and mortar and retail, and that's one of the reasons why they're in massive decline. So that network doesn't necessarily exist, but people, still buy comics online through Amazon, Books a Million. People are still buying manga and stuff like that. And it's you're buying it and then you get it. You don't have to wait months for it. You don't have to worry about getting the book. And the artist is like, oh well, I couldn't afford, or the crowdfunder says like, I couldn't afford someone to color the book. I know when you back the book, I said it would be colored, but I wasn't able to manage the money right to have enough money to pay the colorist, so we're doing black and white. That was someone that did that recently. I can't remember the name, but you have stuff like that. And if people are turned off by it because people want to be customers of good entertainment. They don't want to be these patrons and investors. There are some people who are willing to do that. And there are some people who can be on the crowdfunding model and actually use it very effectively. You've got, I would say, Genuine Comics does a great job of having a pretty good production schedule, and Dave Brink tells some really good stories, and he's a fan. He's a very nice guy, and they do timely work. It does take some time, but again, it's just some guy, I believe in the Netherlands, working with a couple of people internationally to make comic books as probably all of their side jobs. So I'm fine with it taking a while, it taking time. Genuine Comics makes great stuff, but they have the right attitude about it, and they're not like years late on fulfillment. They're doing stuff at a reasonable rate of production. Whereas you got someone like EVS who's got all of these campaigns open, he's not fulfilling on them, and then of course he's spending the hours and hours of feeding his own ego through trash casts and everything like that. And of course then you've got people who aren't necessarily doing all of that, but they're just not producing anything, because they have no idea how to manage their production, because that was all being done for them when they were working in the mainstream. They had people who they had editors, they had the suits giving them the deadlines and telling them that this has to be drawn, and then of course all they had to do was draw the pages and submit them. And then if the editor said you have to change X, Y, and Z, change X, Y, and Z, and then someone else compiles a print file and gets it pre-pressed and then printed and then distributed to the comic book shops, and then you get your royalty checks every month. That's what they were used to, and then all of that business stuff you have to take on, and they weren't able to do it, a lot of them, and that's why all this floundering in crowdfunded comics is happening. But that's my commentary there. So Garfield says it's pretty cool. Mike S. Miller did a cover for Eric. I'm pretty sure he did one for Yellow Flash as well. We'll see. It definitely is cool, and we'll show off Horseman #1, cover B. So Logic's Fine is saying, I don't argue with people who don't like what I do. I talk to people about what we both like as adults and share a pint with friends. Definitely agree with that. Like I'd rather not. I mean, I think it would be fun if I did an open space, and I'd honestly be fine with talking with any of the people if about those things. But a lot of it is like stuff like I wrote Rippaverse apologetics. I stand by that. All of the narratives are really lazy and dumb, and I don't think any amount of civil conversation I could have somebody's going to convince them that Eric isn't this like fragile um you know this guy with a fragile ego that just goes around striking anybody who has criticism with either the DMCA claims or the law or whatever, because of all the drama that's happened. So I don't think it would be a fruitful thing. But this is the Mike Miller cover, The Horseman, back to action, driven by revenge. Absolutely epic cover. I do love this cover, and it's really got that good retro style. Let's see. So when actors or directors make a vanity project, it bombs because they made a film for them, not for the fans. Same with comic creators, from my observation. Absolutely agree. See, yeah, Van Gogh. I hate bad grammar. I think Van Gogh is actually pronounced Van Gogh. I'm not sure if you guys know I Am Mobo, but I Am Mobo does these like really, I don't know, comical shorts. There's a lot of like the history of things. And my personal headcanon for the future is that humanity's going to go through some extinction phase, and we're going to lose basically everything, all human knowledge, except for the I Am Mobo videos that have these like fake accounts of history, like how glass is invented or how chocolate's invented. It's like completely ridiculous thing that's very anachronistic, where it's like where soda's being invented, or like soap, and it's like in medieval times. um let's see, the archaeologists will find these videos and we'll have to reconstruct all of human history based off of those videos. But I forget exactly what I was talking about. But Soon of God is asking, what's the holdup for the Mighty Golden Patriot? I think they're editing it. That's what it was being talked about. But the way Yellow Flash is talking about it is that you order the book, and then you're going to get it in a couple of weeks. It's not going to be like it's going to be even shorter than the typical Rippaverse pre-order window. So it's probably going to be shorter than Great War Separation, where we pre-ordered it like the end of January and got it in March. Right, it's probably where we, if it happens at the beginning of the month, we get it within the month, or at the next month, at the latest, if like the middle or the late or later to the month. So it's probably going to be something that we will have be able to buy and read before the end of the summer, the way he's talking about it. So they just want to get like ready. So we'll see what happens with that. But that is a status that I've last heard. They're editing it, so they're getting it ready to release. And of course, there's been so many people who have been on the case of Yellow Flash and Dillard, and that's been a big, I guess, sore area. And this is part of the conversation that we been having with artists and how they relate to the industry, the comic book industry. A lot of people were saying Dillard is getting a raw deal because instead of being paid by Flash, he's taking the ownership of the book as a property. I believe it's 60-40. And Dillard is doing this in part because he wants to work with somebody who's got the brand recognition that Yellow Flash has, right? To get more eyes on his work. His work is fantastic, but he wasn't able to break out on his own with those other books. And he's thinking, if I own this with Flash, and this book makes like $400,000, I get 40% of that. And I believe, let's see, 40,000. Let's say Yellow Golden Patriot makes $400,000, and Dillard owns 40% of that. That's 100,000, 40,000. That's 40,000. That'd be $160,000 that he would get from that one book. Definitely could be worth it. I honestly think that Mighty Golden Patriot is probably going to make. I would imagine we make $200,000 to $400,000. That's my prediction for Mighty Golden Patriot. It could make a bit less than that, but I think $200,000 to $400,000. I think that's probably where it's going to fall. Because I still I think Yellow Flash has got a pretty good big thing. So what's the holdup for Cyber Frog 3? Well, I don't think Ethan's drawing it. Because I backed it in around the time License 2 came out. And of course, Rainbow is nowhere to be seen. And I remember when he said that Rainbow was going to be finished in August. Yeah, that was last August. The art for it would be finished. That still isn't the case. And of course, there's no words on the side books. But yeah, I mean, if you're waiting for Cyberpunk 3, it's going to be a while. Let's see. Wonder if Dillard is also going to use Rippaverse. Yeah, that's a decent chance that he does. If you're talking about Dillard doing independent books independent of Yellow Flash, I think that would be a very natural thing. And of course, he's already got that working relationship. I'm sure he can, get Eric July. I forget, is it Alex Martin? I forget his name, who also manages Represent. But we'll see what happens. But you definitely need to get more people on Represent. And of course, if Andrew's still watching, I've got my prose books, my three. I've published one. I've got two other written. I'm going to publish them for Lulu this year. But I'd love, if Represent gets into publishing books like that. I'll have books that I can. It'd be nice to have them as like the printer and the free PL. Andrew is still in the chat. So yeah, if you ever want to do like a sci-fi novel, Machine Demand is available, and I could definitely do that for Represent. Of course, From Men to Machines. I feel comfortable saying that because I have the copyright for it. That's a prequel to Machine Demand. Probably going to release that in August, and I have the cover for that book. It came out. I think the cover came out really nice. But that I'm going to release that. That's the prequel to Machine Demand. If you guys have read my sci-fi novel, check out Velvet Room Publishing. Let's see. Yes, last August. That is. Let's see. Gary's going to use Represent for a limited print of his book. Interesting. You're talking about Gary from Neurotic. I knew he owned a comic book shop. I know he's like big into, of course, all the nerd stuff, especially I imagine especially comic books. I didn't know he was doing a book. That is interesting. But we've been going for almost 2 flipping hours. So I think I'm getting to. Dillard's also going to drop a campaign for his comic, The Buckler. Interesting. Definitely, probably ought to check that out. But let's see. I am coming up on 2 hours having live streamed. Absolutely fantastic, and talked about so much, and I went on all these tangents, and I think you guys enjoyed for the most part. It's pretty stable on the viewer counts, and then with live streaming, that means there's general interest. And of course, I imagine a lot of you guys just put this on in the background while you're doing other stuff. But I think I'm getting to the point where I want to end this, so we're gonna remove that there. Let's see, autobiography of his life, Gary Buechler the Neurotic. Yes, cool. I am back. Solo Leia. I wanted to do Solo Leia. I accidentally removed myself from the stage, so you guys couldn't hear me. I'm not sure about the title though. I don't watch much Geek and Gamers. I only ever watched Ryan Cannell, RK Outpost, and I typically will watch those during my lunch break, and it's just basically him reporting on the box office for a lot of movies for the most part. Some video game stuff, but a lot of it was just him. A lot of it was him tracking the box office numbers. Of course, those have been in the toilet for most of the big movies, and a lot of movies haven't been too much. I guess the film release schedule has been a bit really slow, especially for Disney, since the big mainstream movies have basically just been Disney exclusively. You've had some stuff from Warner Bros. Of course, I think Warner Bros. And or Warner Discovery is gearing up to release a good amount of stuff. With the Superman, the DC universe with James Gunn. We'll see how that turns out. I think people are optimistic about the Superman movie, which, more power to them. But we've got to the Minecraft movie, and that's doing well. I think that's got a lot of mimetic value. People like to chicken jockey, and Jack Black, of course, is falling in line with all of the you know marching orders for the Hollywood agenda. But he's still a really funny, entertaining personality, and I think that the Minecraft movie was able to exemplify that, and that's part of the reason why it's working. A lot of kids still play Minecraft. It's a very popular game with the younger audience, the elementary to middle school demographic, and they. I don't know. They're a lot more susceptible to being like corporatized. Like, so you can make a very corporate product, and as long as it like vaguely resembles what is um the property, people will flock to it, and that's what the Minecraft movie was. And I think that's why it's doing well, because people are like, oh, I can take my kids to it, and of course you got like like high school boys who are like laughing over the chicken jockey stuff, making mess of feeders. Um, so like I said, meme value. But yeah, so long. Thanks for all the fish. Yes. Okay. So yeah, that is I believe this is like the fifth episode of Braxcast Live. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. But unless anybody has anything else to say, anything else to add, I feel fine. Um, yeah, tracking it off, cutting it off here. So that is it. Oh, let's see. So thank TC Joker. I guess you're saying goodbye. Amazing saying goodbye. We've got best to you, and John Luke Connery is saying hello. Hello, John Luke. We just ended a 2-hour live stream basically. So I talked about a bunch. So of course the VOD for this is going to be up on YouTube, and I'll post it when I get to access to download it sometime tomorrow. Horseman is the best book. Horseman's a fantastic book. Anthony Buck is saying later, yeah, you missed it. Oh, don't worry, John. So every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern is when I live stream, and if you're interested in watching the replay, that should be up soon. But yeah, I've been live streaming for almost 2 hours, for basically 2 hours. So I am definitely a bit tired. So definitely check out the replay of that, John Luke. Sorry that you got in so late, but we had a fantastic show for everybody who did show up, throughout the, earlier on. So thank you so much. Definitely going to do this again next week. So Jean Luc, tune in at 6 p.m. Eastern. If you want to catch this, if it works with your schedule, fantastic. I'll see you there. If not, that's perfectly okay. You can always watch the replay, and you can always watch the pre-recorded episodes of Braxcast if you want commentary of the Rippaverse. But that's all I have to say. Been a very long, drawn-out intro, a lot of rambling. That's been the theme for this live stream. But I am out. Thank you so much, guys.